Jim, good morning to you. First of all, a belated happy birthday to you.
Jim.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much indeed. Morning to both of you. Yeah, it's. I'm glad that my birthday was Friday and not today. I mean, today with England being in the World Cup final would have been something very special, but not to be. But
Cheesecake factory, Jim.
What
the cheesecake?
I haven't got a figure like this by eating cheesecake, Cass, as well. You know, not one at a time, anyway.
So you were hearing there a sample of fans' views, pundits' views as well on this final. There are the romantics who think, it's destiny for Lionel Messi, and the fact that there'll be lots of neutrals probably supporting Argentina as well, just based on Lionel Messi. But France are there to cause a little bit of history, make a little bit of history as well by becoming the first side to retain the trophy since Brazil did it back in 58-62 as well. How are you expecting this game to pan out?
Well, in terms of who I think is going to win, I think Argentina. I've gone with Argentina all the way through. And yeah, there would be a fantastic romantic edge to it if it were Messi in his final World Cup game to lift the trophy. But listen, we've all seen enough of football to know that footballing fate really doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. There is no romance in the game. Nothing ever sort of falls into your lap. You have to earn it. And France, I don't know that they necessarily get the credit they deserve. You think that they are on the verge of an extraordinary piece of history to win back-to-back World Cups for the first time in 60 years, as you say. And yet, in many ways, they've continued to go under the radar. I think that there is so much room for improvement in French performances. They've got to the final without being probably even 80% as good as they could be. Kylian Mbappe has drifted out of games. France, seemingly, whilst Argentina have been getting better throughout the tournament, France's curve maybe is going slightly the other way. But that said, they have the ability to win games without having too much possession. And to be able to put holes in the very best game plan. So I think we are in line for a classic final. I think this is the most mouth-watering final on paper than any we've had for, 20, 30 years, something like that. It could be magnificent.
I was going to say, Jim, on that is that it also is telling you a story where the two goalkeepers have been brilliant for Argentina and for France. You know, they've played their part. This isn't two teams that won't concede chances because they do.
And both teams have lost. I mean, you've got to go back to 1978 for the last time you had a World Cup final where both teams going into the final had been beaten at some stage in the tournament. That Argentina defeat against Saudi Arabia first time out was with pretty much Argentina's first choice side. Emi Martinez has been the hero in penalty shootouts, or in the penalty shootout against the Dutch, but also that wonderful save he made very late on against Australia that stopped that one going to extra time as well. And Hugo Lloris has also had a tournament where he's rolled back the years. So I don't know that history in 20, 30 years' time will look back at whoever wins this and say they were one of the all-time great teams. There are certainly all-time great players that are going to be involved today, but I don't think necessarily that it is the two vintage teams in the final. That's not denigrating them. I think they're the best two teams here and they're thoroughly worthy of their place. But I think that just makes it more intriguing in a way that you have the opportunity for both of them to make history, for France to go back-to-back, for Messi to win it, for Argentina to win it for the first time in 36 years after coming up short in finals in the past. I think it's a fantastic story. Whatever happens today it will be a final for the ages, if not necessarily in terms of magnificent searing quality.
And as you said, it could have been an England final if it had all gone to plan. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out there. But what have you made of the news that Gareth Southgate reportedly, as we understand here at talkSPORT, is going to be staying on as the England manager? Is that something, as someone that's covered plenty of England games over a period of time, I shan't age you too much, Jim, what do you make of that decision? Is that the right decision for you?
I'm absolutely delighted. I think it is 100% the right decision because you know that Gareth won't have taken it lightly and that he will have sat down and he will believe that he is the right man to give England the best possible chance of success. Now, cynics would say, oh, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Because he's got an 18-month contract left and there are financial implications for him. And for a lot of managers in the game, yes, that would absolutely be true. Even if they didn't think they were the right person, they would still say they were. I don't believe that's the case with Gareth. I genuinely think that he will only make the decision to stay if he believes that he's getting somewhere. Now, as an England supporter and someone who has been fortunate enough to see a lot of the games over the last few years and nearly every game of Gareth's reign, I believe that England are going in the right direction. Mm-hmm. This felt like a real near miss over here. But for, another couple of bumps in the road not being there, this could easily have been England in the final today. And it could easily have been England winning the World Cup final. Now, I'm not saying they were the best team over here. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that it feels as though England are getting closer. I think that this was a better World Cup campaign than the last one where England were beaten in extra time in the semi-finals. I think that the progress is being made. I think that it's important that there's a realism that maybe the next two tournaments, the Euros in Germany and the next World Cup, are England's best chance of success for a while, because I don't necessarily think we've got the players coming through after that to be able to replace the centre halves. Maybe there's not a natural replacement for Harry Kane, I would suggest, out there at the moment. So I think that the next two tournaments are really important. But as an England supporter, as opposed to a journalist, I'm delighted. I'm delighted that Gareth is staying on. I think it's the right decision. And I think that there is every chance that England can be right up there for Germany and will have a really good chance of lifting that trophy. And I think that chance is enhanced by the fact that Gareth is the manager.
I totally echo what you're saying, Jim, because I do feel there's been, let's put it in perspective. The FA were happy for him to stay. The players wanted him to stay. And in the vote, even on the, by newspapers and the polls they'd done, the majority of the fan base wanted him to stay. So I just don't see the argument. And I'm sorry, but if you're going to keep if I'm going to keep hearing the same old, England have only beaten 4 teams in the top 20, I don't think that's as relevant as most people are making out.
No, I mean, you can get stats to say whatever you want. And I actually think there is a relevance to the fact that England haven't beaten many teams above them in the world rankings. But, Cass, they haven't for my lifetime. England in their World Cup history, since they lifted the trophy, they've only beaten one side ranked above them in the World Cup. So this isn't something that you can say is Gareth's fault. No. You can have a look at the statistics another way. From 1968 until Gareth took over, England won 6 knockout games at major tournaments. Gareth has already won another 6 in his time. So when he's got to a semi-final, a final and a quarter-final, that's so out of kilter with what had preceded it. I don't see that there's a logical argument to say that he's underperformed. I really don't. Yeah, he's got good players at his disposal, better players than some previous managers. You could argue that there have been better England teams that haven't performed anything like as well as the one that Gareth has at his disposal. But the players love him. There is a unity about England now that wasn't there before, that hadn't been there for years. But he's brought that in. He's more than a football manager. And if people think that England are in the World Cup final today because of Gareth, I can't get my head around that argument at all. I just can't understand it.
Just lastly then, Jim, what's the plan for the day? How's it panning out for you in terms of before you get there and then the final itself?
So I should probably give you a political answer if I'm sitting doing the last bit of research and checking up on things. The reality is I'm packing because we're all leaving quite early tomorrow. And most of my colleagues, much more organised than me, have already got it done. So there's going to be a little bit of packing. We're leaving for the stadium in about an hour and a half's time, something like that. Get up there early, beat the traffic. It's Qatar, the Qatar national holiday today. So we're expecting that there's going to be a lot of traffic. Anyway, that the public transport systems are going to be very busy over here. There will be stacks of Argentinian supporters, both from Argentina, and there are a lot of people living in Qatar have adopted Argentina because of Messi. So there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of traffic up there very early. So we're going to get up there early, have a pre-match meal together,
Nice,
and then do the game. And I just wonder what we're going to be talking about tonight. My gut feeling is that it is going to be a Lionel Messi success.